There are countries that everyone knows because of their culture. Others are known for their historical monuments, tourist attractions, or postcard-perfect landscapes. Some have become references because of their lifestyle. Others are in the news every day because of conflicts. And then there is Liechtenstein, a tiny country, almost invisible on the map, that many people have never heard of. But they should. Because behind this tongue-twisting name lies one of the richest and most organized countries in the world. A place where there is no poverty, no public debt, no chaos or crime. It is small and discreet, but it works like few others. The number of companies exceeds the number of inhabitants. The population lives well in safety and with a very high standard of living. And all this under the command of a monarchy that still truly governs, with a castle, a prince, and political veto power. Today, Bello Mundo will take you inside this unique place, where everything seems small, except the standard of living. Number 1. Location and general information. Liechtenstein is not just small, it is tiny. It is just over 61 square miles, squeezed between the Alps. You can cross the country by car in less than an hour. But it is not the time that impresses. It is the landscape. Liechtenstein is the only country in the world located entirely in the Alps. The entire area is within the Alpine mountain range. In other words, it's mountains from start to finish. Towns and villages are scattered throughout the valleys, while snow-capped peaks outline the horizon. In summer, the trails become a favorite activity for locals. In winter, snow takes over and transforms the country into a kind of living nativity scene. The climate, incidentally, changes considerably with the seasons. In summer, the days are long and cool, ideal for hiking and biking. In winter, temperatures drop significantly, and snow covers even the rooftops of the capital, Vaduz. Those who enjoy winter sports will find themselves at home in the mountains of Malbun, the local ski resort. Despite its isolated geography, getting to Liechtenstein is simple. There is no airport or train station within the country, but access from Switzerland and Austria is quick and direct. The nearest airport is in Zurich. And since the country is part of the Schengen area, there are no formal borders. Just drive in and enter. It's almost like visiting a European village that happens to be an entire country. Number 2. The family that bought a country. The history of Liechtenstein does not begin with revolutions, wars of independence, or grand treaties. It begins with a purchase. In the 18th century, the powerful Liechtenstein family, originally from Austria, already had land, titles, and prestige. But they didn't have what really mattered in the politics of the Holy Roman Empire, their own territory, directly subordinate to the emperor. At the time, to have a seat in the imperial parliament, it was not enough to be rich or noble. It was necessary to control a piece of land that was outside the influence of any other feudal lord. And that was when the Liechtensteins decided to turn ambition into action. Between 1699 and 1713, they bought two small isolated regions in the Alps, Vaduz and Schellenberg. These were remote areas with little strategic value, but with one detail that made all the difference. They were directly linked to the emperor. In 1719, these two territories were officially unified, and so the Principality of Liechtenstein was born. A country that did not emerge from battles, but from a well-calculated political move. In the early years, the princes themselves were hardly ever seen there. They continued to live in Vienna, treating Liechtenstein more as a political springboard than as home. But with the dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire and the redrawing of the European map, the relationship began to change. Gradually, the family began to invest in the territory, structure local institutions, and transform that isolated piece of land into a truly sovereign state. The principality survived the end of the Germanic confederations, remained neutral during the world wars, and over time built a solid and independent foundation. Today, Prince Hans Adam II holds the position of head of state, but the day-to-day running of the country is in the hands of his son, Crown Prince Alois, who acts with full powers on behalf of his father. And if you think this is just a ceremonial role, wait until you see what comes next. Number 3. The monarchy that still rules. While most European monarchies have become ceremonial symbols, with kings and queens participating in public events, but with no real weight in decision-making, in Liechtenstein the prince still holds the pen. The constitution guarantees him concrete powers. The prince can veto laws, dissolve parliament, appoint judges, and directly interfere in political decisions. He actively participates in the running of the country with formal and effective authority. And the most interesting thing is that this is not imposed. The population supported this model. In 2003, a national referendum asked citizens whether the prince's powers should be limited. The answer was clear. More than 60% voted in favor of maintaining and even expanding the sovereign's authority. Meanwhile, in countries such as the United Kingdom, the movement is the opposite. According to the annual British Social Attitude Survey, support for the British monarchy has fallen to 54%, the lowest level since 1983. The most revealing detail is the difference between generations. Among young people under 35, only 13% consider the monarchy to be very important. In other words, for younger people, who are the future of the United Kingdom, the monarchy has become an optional detail, a symbol of high cost, little practical use, and an almost decorative function. In Liechtenstein, it is the opposite. The figure of the prince is directly linked to the stability of the country, the functioning of its institutions, and the confidence of the population. And even with all the power he wields, the prince maintains a discreet, institutional profile without scandals or ostentation. Quite different from what we see in the British royal family, by the way. Here, the monarchy has not only survived, it continues to rule with real power and popular support. And this closeness translates into a gesture that has become a national tradition. Every year, on Liechtenstein National Day, the gates of Vaduz Castle, the official residence of the royal family, are opened to the public. Anyone who wants to can go up there, listen to the prince's speech, toast with beer served by royalty themselves, and walk through the gardens with panoramic views of the Alps. It's a rare mix of politics, informality, and tradition that reflects the spirit of the country. Number 4. Total security. Liechtenstein is the kind of country where security isn't a campaign promise. It is a daily reality. There is no violence on the streets and no fear lurking around the corner. In the United States, security is often associated with a military presence, intense policing, and cameras on every corner. In Liechtenstein, however, tranquility prevails in a different way. Protection comes from organization, stability, and a civil system that works with precision. The country's police force is discreet and efficient. There are no troops on the streets, no ostentatious operations, but the results are clear. Liechtenstein records less than 1 homicide per year, which represents 1 death for every 300,000 people. In the United States, the rate is approximately 6 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants. In other words, proportionally, the chance of someone being murdered in the United States is about 20 times higher than in Liechtenstein. To give you an idea, there is only 1 prison in the entire country, with a capacity for just over 20 people, And even so, at various times of the year, it is completely empty. That's right, there is no one in prison. And then there is the fire department, made up entirely of volunteers. Ordinary people who organize themselves in each village and town to respond to emergencies with an efficiency worthy of a model country. All this happens quietly. No barracks, no troops, no fanfare. Number 5. No army. If safety on the streets is impressive, what can be said about a country that lives without an army and functions perfectly well? Since 1868, Liechtenstein has had no armed forces. The decision was practical. Maintaining an army was expensive and unnecessary for a small, peaceful territory with no external disputes. Since then, the country has adopted a policy of total neutrality, and in case of emergency, it has an agreement with Switzerland for diplomatic and defensive support. But the most unusual episode in this story took place in 2007. During a nighttime military exercise, a group of Swiss soldiers crossed the border and advanced about 2 kilometers into Liechtenstein. It was an accidental invasion, but a real one nonetheless. The next day, the Swiss government apologized. Liechtenstein's response was simple and humorous. They said they hadn't even noticed. A diplomatic way to end the case without a crisis. Obviously, the episode did not go unnoticed, but since no one was hurt, there was no damage, and the friendship between the countries is solid. Everything was handled lightly. The incident ended up becoming a symbol of local tranquility. A country without an army, without tensions, and without the desire to create problems where none exist. Number 6. Places. Liechtenstein may be tiny on the map, but it is full of places worth visiting. And the best part? You can see almost everything in a day or two. No rushing, no crowds, and a postcard-perfect setting. The first stop, of course, is Vaduz, the country's capital. At the top of a hill stands Vaduz Castle, the official residence of the royal family. It is not open to the public for most of the year, but it makes for incredible photos and a panoramic view of the Alps. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you are there in August, on Liechtenstein National Day, the castle gates are open. There is a speech by the prince, beer in the gardens, and a festive atmosphere that mixes politics, tradition, and informality. Nearby, in the city center, is the Stadel, the main pedestrian street. It is the heart of Vaduz. It has charming cafes, local shops, outdoor sculptures, and 2 museums that are worth mentioning. One is the Kunstmuseum Liechtenstein, focused on modern and contemporary art. The other is the National Museum, with a collection on the history of the country, the monarchy, and life in the mountains. Another typical outing is the Prince's Winery, the Hofkellerei. It is just a few minutes from the center and offers tastings of wines produced by the royal family themselves. They take the subject seriously. Liechtenstein wines have won awards in several European competitions. If nature is what you're after, the place to go is Malbin, the country's main ski resort. In winter, it's a snow sports paradise. In summer, it becomes a haven for hiking and walking with views of the Alpine peaks. It's the kind of place that makes anyone forget about their digital life for a few hours. To finish off, it's worth stretching your trip to Balzers, a charming village in the south of the country. It has typical houses, mountainous landscapes, and Gutenberg Castle, which looks like something out of a fairy tale. Unlike the one in Vaduz, this castle is open to the public and has outdoor areas that are perfect for exploring at your leisure. Small in size, huge in experience. This is how Liechtenstein surprises those who decide to take a closer look. Number 7. Gastronomy. After exploring the castles, villages, and trails in the Alps, it's time for the most delicious part of the trip: the food. Liechtenstein's cuisine is exactly what you would expect from a small and sophisticated Alpine country. Hot dishes, abundance, peasant roots, and an elegant mix of Swiss, Austrian, and German influences. Nothing too extravagant, but everything is very well done. One of the classics is Käsknöpfle, a kind of small gnocchi made with flour, eggs, and lots of melted cheese. It is served with golden onions on top and potato salad on the side. Simple, hearty, delicious. For locals, it's as typical as our Saturday feijoada. Another curious dish is ribbel. It contains corn flour, milk, and butter, cooked slowly until it forms light, golden lumps. It can be served as an accompaniment to artisanal sausage or with jam, depending on the occasion. It sounds strange, but it is one of the most beloved foods in the country. At snack time, the highlight is Bernbrot, a dense bread filled with dried pears, walnuts, and spices. It looks like dessert, but it's really a snack. It tastes like grandma's house in winter. And to drink, local white wines are the big star. Produced on the slopes around Vaduz, they are light, fresh, and internationally recognized. The most famous winery belongs to the royal family itself, which has won numerous awards in Europe. Number 8. Where there are more companies than people. By now, you may have realized that Liechtenstein is not only beautiful, organized, and safe, it is also rich, very rich. And we're not talking about one or two prosperous cities. The entire country functions as a high-precision economic machine. Even though it is smaller than many capital city neighborhoods, Liechtenstein is home to more than 60,000 companies, a number that far exceeds the total population. And that's no exaggeration. The country has only about 40,000 residents. But it attracts corporations from around the world for one simple reason. Here, the business environment is efficient, stable, and highly profitable. The gross domestic product per capita has already exceeded $180,000 per person. To give you an idea, this figure is more than triple the average for countries such as France and Germany, and even exceeds that of the United States itself. It is one of the highest on the planet. However, unlike other rich countries, Liechtenstein has no oil, does not live off luxury tourism, and does not have a famous capital city. What drives this silent powerhouse are three well-structured pillars. The first is the tax system. Here, both income tax and corporate taxes are very low. This attracts holding companies, investment funds, and companies from all corners of the globe in search of stability and discretion. The second pillar is industry. It may seem curious, but the industrial sector here is very strong. The headquarters of Hilti, for example, which exports tools and technology for construction worldwide, is located in Liechtenstein. The same goes for Ivo Klar Vivident, a global leader in dental products. And the third pillar is the banking system. Even after adopting international transparency rules, the country remains one of the safest financial centers in Europe. One example is the LGT Group, one of the largest private banks in the world, which belongs to the royal family itself. Founded over a century ago, it is headquartered in Vaduz and operates in dozens of countries. While many governments struggle to balance their budgets, Liechtenstein accumulates surpluses. It does so with a lean, functional, and highly reliable economic model. But the most impressive is yet to come. Number 9. The country without poor people. Wealth and inequality often go hand in hand, but not here. In Liechtenstein, poverty is virtually non-existent. There are no slums, no homeless people, and no families living on welfare. Inequality is minimal. Healthcare works, education is high quality, the government has no debt, and public services operate with excellence. This does not mean that everyone who works here is a millionaire. Far from it. In fact, much of the country's workforce, such as drivers, waiters, attendants, and domestic workers, come from abroad, mainly from Switzerland and Austria. These people cross the border every day to work and return home at the end of the day. Why don't they stay? Because the cost of living in Liechtenstein is extremely high. Renting an apartment or supporting a family here is unfeasible for those who earn an average salary. It's as if the country has created an economic filter. Only those who really have the income to do so remain. That's why, within the borders, no one goes without. And outside them, those who provide essential services also benefit with better wages and quality of life in neighboring cities. Ultimately, what you see in Liechtenstein is rare, a stable, safe, highly functional society where inequality is virtually non-existent. Not because it has been eliminated, but because, in a way, it has been left outside. It is a model that raises debates, of course, but within its own framework, it works. And it works very well. So, what did you think of this small country? Can you imagine yourself living in a place like this? Leave your answer in the comments. If you enjoyed this content, you know what to do. Like, subscribe to Bello Mundo, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next videos. Thank you very much for joining us, and see you on the next adventure.